and the quantum consciousness is just such a big thing that's coming into our awareness now, in terms of understanding ourselves at a far greater level. And I think the expansion of that quantum consciousness is what's going to shift, you know, our current views of science and everything. And so I'm excited about that. It's going to be great.
Absolutely. Yeah, me too. And I find it difficult because, once again, you know, I don't consider myself just a channeler or just a psychic or just a medium. And I'm kind of caught in between trying to define myself and also trying to be as well-rounded as possible so I don't pigeonhole myself into just one idyllic perception. So I'm bringing in something that's so nonlinear and quantum into still a very linear, a very limited reality. And it can be very difficult for me to find that balance between the information that I receive and the way that I transmute and translate that information to the people. And, you know, I know that there are billions of people out there. I know that they all need to hear this information. And yet I still feel that push and pull with my ability to reach as many people as possible. And I'm just kind of playing this waiting game. And I really feel like people just maybe aren't really ready for what I have to give yet, because it is very all encompassing and it's not very niche or linear in that way. So it's almost like you have to follow my flow, you know, and you have to let go of what you've previously believed in order to kind of get into this quantum nonlinear state of everything simultaneously rather than just one thing at a time. So I'm definitely, you know, I feel like I'm kind of paving my own path, and it can be very difficult sometimes to be in this linear world in a very quantum state.
Absolutely. However, having said that, you do have 16.5k subscribers, so that's doing pretty well. That's great. And when you're talking, you've got that beautiful mandala behind you. It looks like a crown around your head. I just see this beautiful crown.
And it's like so perfect. Even if I was like sitting up a little bit more, it just wouldn't align. But like, I love it. Yeah, so cool.
And it reminds me of there's a country like Bulgaria where they have these amazing flower decorations around their heads as well, which is really beautiful. I might put a link below to that so people can look at it on Facebook. It's a really beautiful thing that they do in their culture to honor the feminine. So very beautiful. So I was wanting to now just ask you a question about something interesting that I'm experiencing and just get your take in it, because you have so much wisdom to share. There's a really big thing that I personally have experienced, and I see a lot of people going through on the planet at the moment. And what it is, it's a thing called parental alienation, where when people go through divorces or separations, what's happening with so many children is that they are being influenced, manipulated could be another word, but influenced to, in a sense, separate from one of the parents, because one of the parents is not wanting them to have the relationship with the other parent and is influencing them. And of course, you know, there are no victims. We all have to take responsibility for our own actions in life. But I just see so many parents going through this really challenging experience of having children reject them and alienate from them after, you know, separations and divorces. I know one fellow, for example, who's had 5 children that the mother didn't want him to really have a relationship with, and so the 5 children don't have a relationship with him. And then there's another man I know who has got 3 children at the same experience, and it did happen with me also with a child. So, you know, this is happening very extensively, and it's not obviously on an emotional level. It's not really you know, a good thing for either the child or the parent, because, you know, that they're having this. And the other thing I got this morning was I woke up and I got, you know, in that phase when you're just woken up and you're about to get up, and there's that intermediate phase and you get a lot of information come through. And I got an information coming through that, you know, we incarnate in family to ideally be able to heal wounding. And so therefore, unless it's a very destructive situation, ideally we want to be able to while we can, to be able to work toward some sort of resolution within family contexts, if we can, if it's not too destructive. So can you speak to that parental alienation, Elizabeth? I'd love to hear what you have to say about that.
Absolutely. And I've heard of a lot of these kind of cases as well in my clients and other people, and also similar things in different ways, right? I mean, the general theme of what's being presented at this time, like I'll give you another example of maybe someone who doesn't have kids but experiencing the same lesson. They have a boss, they've been working there for a number of years, and there's other people in the office that, I don't know, for whatever reason, have a more negative view of that person, and they go to their boss and they say, hey, this person is, they're taking too long of breaks or whatever. They're not doing their job right or whatever. So you've got this, influence that's happening that is seemingly out of your control. And what this is kind of stemming around is the polarity that we're really shifting into and away from on the planet at this time. I've talked about the Schumann resonance a lot, and it's basically, third dimension, fifth dimension. We are really separating the vibrations on this planet like radio stations, and we've got a very low fear-based vibration, and we've got a really high loving vibration. And what's happening within smaller environments, whether that be the workplace or a family dynamic, the polarity is getting really intense and really divided, right? And so when you have something like a child or children who are caught up in between the polarity of a mother and a father, or vice versa, or what have you, they have a choice to make, right? And this child could be 2 years old, 5 years old, 8 years old, 18, 25, whatever, right? And the most important point for the parent, at least, or for that individual, even in a job place or what have you, is to understand that everyone's got their own contracts and lessons to learn, right? I mean, you kind of mentioned this as well, is the child signed up for their parents to get divorced. The boss signed up to deal with this dynamic between two workers, right? I mean, everyone's got a responsibility to take in this situation. And there is nothing that you can do about a husband or a wife who's basically bad-mouthing you to their child. It's up to the child to make a choice. Now, typically at a young age, it feels very out of control, and it feels like you can really put yourself easily into that victim mentality of, well, my child's just getting influenced and I have no control over it. And so what I like to say is, at a certain point in time, that child is going to be conscious and aware enough to make that choice. So I would say if a child is above 12, the age of 12, then that child has a conscious choice to make of, well, where do I feel better? Dads or moms, or what have you, right? So what I would recommend is stay aligned to your truest and highest vibration. Don't allow anyone or anything else to come in the way of that true vibration. And if you just keep trekking on your path, eventually your child is going to either resonate with that or not. And if your child doesn't resonate with your vibration, it means that they have chosen a polarizing or an opposite vibration, and that's okay. And sometimes our children and, coworkers or what have you need to sink, need to stumble, need to fall, need to become ignorant in order to become awakened. And once again, that's their path. Yeah, you see them going down the wrong way, and there's really nothing else you can do but love and support them no matter what, and let them learn their lessons. Because if you're like, hey, watch out for that step, hey, watch out for that hole, you're about to step into it, then what are you doing? You're enabling that person to not learn their lessons, which can be extremely detrimental for you, because all of a sudden you have expectation on them because you're providing them with a lot of energy and vibration to support them. So you expect them to make that turnaround. And then likewise, they have a lot of resistance towards you because all you're doing is helping them and pushing them along, or they have a lot of attachment to you because you are their source of movement. So it's really important for a parent especially to create healthy boundaries, a healthy separation, understand that your child signed up for this lesson, and ultimately they will make a choice of what vibration resonates with them the most. But if you allow yourself to feed into the game of the push and the pull and, oh, but I'll take you on this trip, oh, but I'll get you a new iPad, oh, but I'll do, no, be the parent that you've always wanted to be, stay aligned with your own true vibration, and allow your child to make a conscious choice when they're ready to.
It's interesting too, because I was aware of all this, and I stepped back and allowed my children very much to go their own path, because I see a lot of parents out there living through their children and wanting to have them as possession. So I consciously step back, allow them to take their path, and then they say, then comes back to me words about, feeling abandoned because and I was trying to give them space to follow their own path. So it's really sometimes hard to find.
It's a fine line. Absolutely.
And I think it was healthy for them. They became extremely self-sufficient and strong in their own energy, and that really supported them in many ways. But then you get that flack saying that you did it too much. It's like,
so my rule of thumb with that, and you bring up a good point, is that fine balance between how much do you step in, help, and support, and how much do you step back.
yes.
Really fine line there. So like probably 5 or 6 years ago, I kept giving advice to especially friends and family members, because I see a lot of things. So it's like, hey, if I can help you, let me help you. And so it was an open book, and I would give people a lot of advice and information that they simply put just weren't ready for. And I kept hitting this wall of getting really exhausted and tired and overworked, and then also disappointed, because I'm like, I gave you everything you could possibly need and you're still making the same mistakes. So I would get frustrated for someone else's decisions, which is a whole cluster of things that aren't really aligned. So I created a rule of thumb, and the rule of thumb is I do not share insights or give information or even advice or support unless it is asked of me. So I am completely objective. But if someone's like, hey, like, I'm really cold, like, do you think I can borrow your sweater? Absolutely. I will give the shirt off of my back. If you're ready, you will ask for it. And I'm here to provide all day, but I'm not here to provide to people who aren't necessarily aligned to receiving. So you always know if that person is ready for whatever it is, support, emotions, finance, whatever it may be, they have to step into that power and ask for it. And that's where the movement can really be created.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And on the inner too, if you're working with someone, to always ask permission if their higher self would like, you to work with them as well. That's part of what you're talking about as well. Yeah.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Okay. Oh, well, that's great. Thank you for speaking to that point. That's really good to give people clarity, because a lot of parents in that position blame themselves and feel guilty and think, oh, I've done something wrong. But really, it comes down to energy. Tesla, that's what he spoke about. Everything's energy. Einstein, everything's energy. And so with this polarity happening, they're going one way or the other. So thank you. That was really great for clarity on that point. Yay. So the other thing I really wanted to mention that I totally resonated with when I heard you say was that so important to develop our inner discernment at this point on the planet, have our own internal barometer about, what is truth, what is not truth, because so much propaganda out there. There's so much disinformation and coming from all angles about every topic. And you say, and you said yourself, and I said this, I was saying this for a while to people, and then you said it, and I thought, yes, such a great, affirmation, was that what we are presented with on the surface in this world, for a reason, often the real truth is that the opposite is happening underneath of what is being presented to us. And I would say that to people, and they'd go, oh yeah, but they're not gonna. But I just got that really clearly. And then you said that the other day, I thought that's what I'm getting. Often it's an upside down world. What we see coming towards us and wanting to be presented is something for a vested interest, or there's a reason behind it, an agenda behind it. And so what we need to do is go underneath and discern the truth underneath that is often the opposite of what's being shown to us. So would you like to speak
Absolutely. Yeah, there's multiple different levels of the twisted illusion of this reality. There's 2 levels. One is probably a little bit more simple to understand, but definitely not everyone agrees with it. Such as if the government is telling you something like Trump is a really bad guy, and you're hearing it over and over again, it's something to question. I'm not saying he's a good guy, because, he's definitely a buffoon, but it's something to question when we're being presented only one view of something and the whole mass media is agreeing upon that one view, like God is our one and only savior. Maybe that's something to question, right? So what we're being taught at a blatant truth level is most likely not the truth at all. Most likely it's the exact opposite of that, which is so interesting. And then the other aspect of this, we can go a little bit deeper, a little bit more convoluted. It's a little bit more untangible. And it's whatever we attract in our life at a personal level can also be very twisted and convoluted. Like, say, for example, if you're like, oh, I don't know why, but like, I really want this job, but I'm not getting the job. And like, I don't know why, like, I'm not getting this job. Like, I have all the qualifications. I'm like aligned to the job, whatever. And so it's great. So you're looking at something that you are either attracting or not attracting in your life. And the biggest thing is questioning, well, why do I even want that job to begin with? And what's the rudimentary and base level of a lesson or a trigger or an attachment that I have related to what I'm drawing in, what I'm creating? So instead of like, after a car accident saying, oh, I can't believe that guy wasn't paying attention, how could he do that to me? Ask yourself, why did I manifest and create that in my life? And what's the purpose behind that? So right now we are all being really pushed to go to deeper levels on all accounts within our life, because it's forcing us to take responsibility and it's forcing us to be in divine flow and movement rather than once again being stuck in one linear reality.
So anywhere where there is no neutrality. So, when you have any sort of emotional reaction or emotional response, it's about going in and looking at that on the inner level. So if you're neutral with something, it means you're clear energetically. And so, wherever you have a reaction. Yeah.
Absolutely. And then I kind of get caught up in, am I so neutral about something that like I'm not manifesting it in one way or another, which is also a fine line that we create. If we're super reactionary or super negative about something, we're attracting and creating a lot of the validation towards that negativity. Why do I hate my new haircut? And then someone just comes into your life and says, hey, I hate your new haircut. So we literally think about it, we attract it, and we reverberate it into our reality. But likewise,
that is so quick, the response now. Whereas before, it was much slower. But now, as soon as you think, boom, it's straight in there. Like it just happens so quick.
Exactly.
We have such quick manifestation skills now.
It's so apparent. And so we have to really be aware of what we're attracting and what we're asking for and the responsibility behind all of that, or else we're going to get very far removed from our most aligned and authentic and grounded self. And that's why I also think there's a lot of projection and a lot of disinformation and a lot of false prophets and false truth out there at this time, because it's almost like, oh, I've always been, on the right side of politics. Oh, and now, you're forced to question your attachment to that belief system. So now what? Is it the left side or is it no side? And so it's really important that we're starting to question all of our belief systems to find, at the end of the day, what really resonates and aligns to us. And for me, in finding that neutrality or finding that neutral point, it's like, oh, money, I know it's always going to be there. I know it's just going to be in flow. But in having such a neutral, non-attached perspective on finances or money, then I'm like, wait a second, and am I so nonchalant about this? Am I so chill about this that I'm actually not creating financial abundance because I couldn't care less either way, right? And I think it is a fine line between both. It's great to just, like you said, once you get to that neutral point of non-reaction, it's like, cool, I've overcome that lesson. That's no longer a trigger. I'm no longer completing karma around this thing. That's great. So now what, right? We can't just chill out in that neutral point, or else we're going to get complacent. We're going to get very, apathetic, right? Just like, why bother? Whatever, we're just here, right? And that's cool. It's great to experience that, but it's not good to sit on the fence all the time. So once you kind of find that 0 point or that neutrality place, then you're like, okay, great. That's awesome that I've overcome the attachment, but now what? Now what do I really want to create? So there should always be that next step rather than just, cool, I'm just going with the flow. I'm just in the motion. And that also comes down to a balance between divine masculine and divine feminine energies. Feminine is, I'm here, I'm surrendering, I'm innocent, I'm in flow, I'm just listening, which is great. And then the masculine is, I have a plan, I'm going for it, and this is what I want. And we have to find that balance between staying grounded, having a plan, having foundations, but also letting go of the when and the how, and just being in divine flow. And once again, that's a quantum state. That's a fifth dimensional state where we have masculine and feminine simultaneously. And that's why we have a lot of relationships, especially long relationships, breaking off right now, because those traditional masculine and feminine roles are no longer serving the highest good of each individual as well as the couple. And I've said this for a while now, that in relationships, these quantum relationships moving forward, you have to come at this relationship as a whole individual, which means that you're not looking for your better half. You're not looking for someone to complete you. That's all BS. You're looking for someone who is also whole. And what it means to be whole is you have both sides of masculine and feminine. There is nothing within you or outside of you that is missing. And that person in your life is simply a complement to what you've already created and established for yourself. So once again, the quantum level means everything is simultaneous, including the past within time and the future within time. We see right now that timelines are converging, and which means it's a very complex and challenging and chaotic time to live. But simultaneously, it's a freaking super exciting time to live, because we can have it all. We don't have to choose, well, I've got to choose financial abundance or happiness, because I've always had to choose one or the other in past lifetime. You can be happy and you can be financially abundant. You can have it all. And we need to reverse our mindset and our programming to understand that we're getting into this quantum position.